Claire Hanna alongside Post Media's Bruce Garrioch. And the Ottawa Senators currently coming into tonight's contest on a 4-game losing skid, 2 points outside of a playoff position. But the test is going to be enormous because the Winnipeg Jets are on fire. 10 wins in a row. They're on top of the NHL standings. The news that Brady Tkachuk is out of the lineup is a huge blow. He's the Ottawa Senators captain. He's also their leading goal scorer. So, Bruce, what do you make of the news that he's not playing tonight?
Well, the Senators will have to right the ship without their captain, and that's a very, very difficult task. I'm of two minds about this. This is the second game he's missed with the lower body injury he suffered against Team Sweden going to the net. I look at this situation, and I wonder how much information the Senators had on that injury when he suited up for Team USA in the final against Canada. I am told they didn't have much, even though their head trainer Dom Nicoletta was there. He wasn't given much information because he was with Team Canada at the time, and the Americans, quite frankly, didn't want to give anything to any Canadian officials. But Brady Tkachuk had to play in that game. He hasn't played in that kind of game in his career. He needs that kind of experience. I think throughout that Four Nations tournament, Claire, we said, you know what? This is playoff Brady Tkachuk. And I think the Senators are far better off having a healthy Brady Tkachuk for the final 20-plus games than they are having him play with something that's going to nag him the rest of the year.
Now, he's not the only big loss for the Senators in tonight's game. Josh Norris, who has missed the last 5 games, and Shane Pinto, who has missed the last 3, both of those forwards will be out of the lineup. And you combine those 3 players, they have combined for 32% of the Senators' goals this year. So what kind of losses will they be in tonight's game?
Well, I think the Senators are hopeful that all 3 will play on Saturday night. Well, I'm hopeful that I'll win the lottery. Look, they've got a tough job ahead of them without those guys. You were talking about depth, and you're talking about 3 guys who are difficult to replace. And I really believe the Senators thought they would have all 3 back by now. That's not the case. You have to learn to live without them. They've got to score some goals without them. And the reality is, when you talk about depth in the middle, this depth is being put to the test big time, but they've got to find a way.
Linus Ullmark will be starting in net tonight against the Jets. Now, he missed 19 games in December and January, extending to February. Since his return, he still doesn't have a win in net for the Senators. 3 losses. What does he need to do in tonight's game, Bruce?
Well, these are the games that the Senators got Linus Ullmark for. Big games down the stretch where this club is trying to make the playoffs. The good thing about Linus Ullmark is he has a 2-0 record with a .945 save percentage lifetime against the Winnipeg Jets. Now, he's playing behind a little different team than he was in Boston. Here's the thing that Linus Ullmark has to do. He's got to get his game back together. He's got to make big saves at big times. We can't have another repeat performance of what we witnessed on Saturday night when he gave up 5 goals on 15 shots. That's just not going to work. They need Linus Ullmark to look at the other end, see Connor Hellebuck, and say, I want this challenge and I want to win.
The trade deadline is about a week and a half away. General manager Steve Staios hasn't made any moves this year. Do you think March 7th is going to be busy?
Well, I think we hope it's busy because we're going to be here, right? But I look at the situation, and Steve Staios has kicked tires on pretty much every forward that's available. He hasn't liked the asking price. Here's the problem he's dealing with, Claire. He doesn't have much in the way of assets, and he doesn't have much in the way of cap space. So that's a huge issue for them. Would he like to add a top 9 forward? I think he would, but I think he's in a very, very difficult position to make that happen. And let's not forget, Claire, at some point in the next couple of years, they've got to surrender a first-round pick.
Now, when it comes to defensemen with the Ottawa Senators, they've had a number of injuries this season. It started with Artem Zub, Travis Hamonic, Jacob Bernard-Docker have missed games. But that really opened the door for Nicholas Matinpalo. He sees the opportunity. We saw him represent Finland at the Four Nations. How does that situation change the landscape for trade center, or for the trade deadline, if you will, for the Senators?
Well, they're one in the same trade center and trade deadline. Here's what I look at, Claire, is when I talked to Steve Stales in training camp, he said he wanted to see if on defense if the answers could come from within. Well, they have come from within. They've come from within with a guy like Nicholas Matenpalo. They've come from within with a guy like Tyler Clevin and the way that he has emerged. I look at this situation and I see what they have is something healthy. But what Matenpalo has done by emerging the way he has is he's pretty much made a guy like Jacob Bernard-Docker, who's trying to come back from a high ankle sprain, he's almost made him expendable. I know the Senators have talked to at least a couple of teams regarding getting Bernard-Docker's contract off the books because, quite frankly, it would free up a little more cap space at the deadline. Matenpalo has unseated some people, and that's good for the organization, but it's also good for him.
Okay, the final thing, the Winnipeg Jets are in town. We talked about their hot season. They're on top of the NHL standings, one of the best goalies in the world, if not the best goalie in the world. What kind of a test will this provide for the Ottawa Senators?
To be the best, you got to beat the best. This is even without three top players, this is an opportunity for the Senators to look at this as a measuring stick. Well, measure up on home ice, stop a 4-game losing skid, and you know what? Everybody will feel pretty good going into Saturday when the Sharks are here.
And in their first and only meeting previous to this game on December 28th, it was the Winnipeg Jets beating the Senators 4-2.